Welcome back and prepare to be bedazzled because today I'm going to be shedding light on why you should always be profusely applying to real private sector employee jobs based on voluntary demand if you currently have an employee job, are not going to work as an entrepreneur, and do not have enough money to be able to afford to retire. So why does this happen to be the case, you may ask? Without further ado, without further delay, without further procrastination, allow me to demystify that answer to that inquiry right here, right now. Lamentably, much to my dismay, much to my consternation, much to my chagrin, much to my grief, much to my agony, much to my agitation, much to my irritation, most real private sector employee jobs based on voluntary demand are often deemed to be dead-end, highly time-depleting, debilitating, minimum wage, dispiriting, unfulfilling, undesirable, harrowing, distressful, brutally wretched, ineffably agonizing jobs that not only dispossess an employee out of almost all of his sacrosanct time, but that also do not furnish him with anywhere close to even 1/4 of a subsistence wage for affording housing. Furthermore, most real private sector employee jobs based on voluntary demand do not provide any benefits or any pensions to the real private sector employees who work them. Moreover, most real private sector employee jobs based on voluntary demand do not provide any semblance of job security nor job stability to the real private sector employees who work them. At any given moment, on a whim, you can abruptly get terminated from your real private sector employee job. Almost all the profits that the companies generate are reserved for the executives in tandem with the shareholders. If you're not part of that niche cohort, then expect to be doled out a minimum wage as your remuneration if you work a real private sector employee job based on voluntary demand. Most real private sector employers are eminently reticent about providing their real private sector employees with a pay grade that is even an iota above the minimum wage threshold. If real private sector employee jobs are your only source of income, then it will provide you with a 0% chance to attain financial stability and a 0% chance to attain financial security. If you're going to abstain, desist, and refrain from working in entrepreneurial capacities, and if you do not have enough fiat currency to be able to afford to retire, then you should strive to ascertain real private sector employee job opportunities that provide you with remuneration that is above the minimum wage threshold. You want to be able to maximize your emolument if you're going to work real private sector employee jobs based on voluntary demand. So for every additional dollar that an employer is willing to pay you per hour, it could culminate in you earning an additional $2,080 in gross revenue per year, presuming that you work a real private sector employee job based on voluntary demand on a full-time basis. So find a real private sector employee job based on voluntary demand that is eminently aligned with your core competencies, and strive to stumble upon one that is willing to pay you the maximum amount of remuneration for your sacrosanct, indispensable, finite, invaluable, precious time. If you pivot from working your current real private sector employee job based on voluntary demand to working a real private sector employee job that offers you $5 more per hour, then it could culminate in you earning $10,400 more in gross revenue per year, presuming that you work that new real private sector employee job based on voluntary demand on a full-time basis. If you, for instance, receive a job offer to procure a real private sector employee job based on voluntary demand that pays you $10 more per hour than your current real private sector employee job based on voluntary demand, then it could culminate in you earning $20,800 more in gross revenue per year, presuming that you work that real private sector employee job based on voluntary demand on a full-time basis. So if your earnings potential is going to be tethered to your time, then you do not want it to be fettered at an egregiously low, infinitesimal minimum wage that furnishes you with a negligible amount of purchasing power. If you're reticent about pursuing entrepreneurial pursuits, then at least try to find a real private sector employee job based on voluntary demand that is able to provide you with the maximum amount of remuneration per hour. You may ceaselessly, unremittingly, incessantly, and constantly apply to tens of thousands of real private sector jobs based on voluntary demand for you to be able to receive some real private sector employee job offers that provide you with a pay grade that is above the minimum wage threshold. Most real private sector employers are eminently deterred to furnish their real private sector employees with a pay grade that exceeds the minimum wage threshold. So just be acutely aware that it will take a substantial amount of time to find a real private sector employee job based on voluntary demand that pays above the minimum wage threshold, and that is one to furnish you with a real private sector job offer. Thanks for watching. Have a blissful day. Goodbye.